Peace and greetings. Presenting the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, providing in-depth information on society and culture in America and abroad, bringing you truth messages of inspiration, keen insight, reputable interviews, and so much more. So now, for the truth you've been waiting for, your host of the Network of Awareness podcast, Aura, the informationalist.
Comes a time when we gotta praise the Most High. It comes a time when we repent in the Lord's eyes. Been traumatized, we just weep until we sore eyes. Don't cross that line, or we gotta let the sword fly. It comes a time when we gotta praise the Most High. It comes a time when we repent in the Lord's eyes. Been traumatized, we just weep until we sore eyes. So don't cross that line, we gotta let the sword fly.
Yes, peace and greetings, people. This is Aura the Informationalist, and you are now tuned in to a live broadcast of the Network of Awareness on Most High Monday. And brothers and sisters and all my peoples around the world that are tuning in, and those that are going to be downloading the show not too long after it's over. It's a little bit different. I'm going to do something today where I'm going to do this live show, and it's going to be pretty long. I might take up to 3 hours. I might take up to 2. It's depending. But what I will do is after the broadcast is over, I'm going to modify. It's going to take me about 15 to 20 minutes, and I'll modify the episode to shorten, so that way I take out all the dead air and the extra space in the live broadcast so that it better fits your timely needs, because I know a lot of you are busy and you can't listen to very, very long episodes, and I want you to really grasp all the information that's going to be shared for this particular episode. This one's an important one. I think that everybody should pay close attention to. This is the 5th installment, number 5 of the Narcissism series. This is episode 75. And I'm glad, shout out to Spreaker, that y'all finally figured out how to put the episode numbers in by itself. So now I don't have to do it manually. Thank you for that. Today's episode is 75. No benefits for the doubts. Let me say that again. No benefits for the doubts, baby. No more. It ends here. This is uncovering the psychosis behind the disciples of discord, servants to a legacy of lies. And what they're doing is they're giving you the scriptures, but they're giving it to you through false doctrine, which is a doctrine that fits their narrative, okay? And let me say this, the darkness behind the mask, the disciples of discords are followers who live by these teachings to bring down any order of the Most High Christ that stands in the way of their self-proclaimed narratives. With the narcs' rise in popularity comes an examination into how they operate. Why do people convert to their nonsense interpretations of the truth? And that's what this show is about today, people. And one of the things that I'm going to do is I am going to use a documentary to prove when people come into leadership, a lot of times when it's a narcissist, this is the effects of what happens when a narcissist takes any leadership role or is a person of influence or a word of authority. Now, I also have to mention that this particular episode is been inspired by a couple of brothers that did a video and a conversation interview with a brother from one of the Israelite camps 5 years ago. Very inspiring, because what I started to realize is that there are many brothers like myself and sisters that have experienced this type of spiritual warfare from the narcs, that consider themselves to be spiritual leaders and consider themselves to be people that are calling back brothers and sisters back to Israel. But they're really not. What they're really doing is leading us astray. And I know this from firsthand experience. And I'm so grateful that I'm out of that cult that I was in, that I didn't even realize I was in. And like many of you, and this is why I'm doing this too, just like when I heard this conversation, because I think it's very important that when we know the truth, the Most High wants us to bring it out, because many of our brothers and sisters are being led astray. And it's important for them to know why. Now, whether they make the decision to get out of these cults and to get out of these so-called churches or congregations, or even some of you people that are listening to the show, some of you are Muslim, some of you are Christian, and you know that Christianity has so many different churches, as well as some of you that go to other forms of congregation that are supposed to be speaking this truth and giving you these messages of truth, but they're really misleading you. A lot of these pastors and people that most people look up to as a form of leadership. And because I had a video that I saw in a feed today on Instagram that a brother had shared, and I was very much disgusted by this man who, I won't even say his name because his name says calling people back to Israel, and that's not what he's doing. But let's just call him Mr. Cortez. Mr. Cortez, let me just explain something to you. You are not repenting. And that's why you ask those questions, why when people do things differently and they're telling you that you're not doing it the right way, it's because you're not doing it the right way. And you need somebody to check you. You see, and this is what I'm doing. I'm checking you not because you need to be checked, because you need to check yourself with the Most High. And people have been telling you this for years, but also it's because there is no checks and balances that you have. And I feel like this message is for the brothers and sisters that I truly love and respect, that still follow these types of men like they follow this man, that I'm doing this for them. Because I'm telling you, once you get out of these so-called camps or churches or cults like this man has, you know, a following online with his podcast and all of that. The reality is this. I took a break, people. I told you I took a break, and I told you that I slowly but surely I was going to come back. And I'm back. And I'm still coming back. Like, this is just the beginning. All right? But this needs to be talked about. And I'm very passionate about it because enough is enough. No more benefits of the doubts or for the doubts. Because these people, we've been giving them the benefit of the doubt for years. Every time that some stupid shit comes out their mouth that makes no sense, we give them the benefit of doubt. Every time we see them put in some bogus ass video with some bullshit rhetoric, we give them the benefit of the doubt. Every time they slander one of our brothers and sisters in this truth that maybe made a mistake or were in error, and instead of doing it in private, they do it in public, in great discord, we give them the benefit of the doubt. Every time they create or mislead people or create such an environment of toxicity that many of our brothers and sisters don't even feel like they could be open in their relationships of love, their relationships of commitment with each other, based on the false doctrines that are spoken by these men. And it winds up creating so much strife and so much suffering unnecessarily. And I say enough with these narcs, because we're going to talk about how this all stems from narcissism. And the documentary that I'm going to play clips from to prove this is going to be from the documentary called Pound Unfit, The Psychology of Donald Trump, who's a malignant narcissist. And we're going to go into what a malignant narcissist is, because you've heard me talk about it. And a lot of these men from these camps and churches, and like this man with his cult, you know, which he thinks he's, sometimes I feel like he thinks he's the Messiah himself. You can't say nothing to these people because they have no empathy, because they have what's called delusions of grandeur. And if you haven't heard the episode I did on this man called Delusions of Grandeur, check it out, because he is probably one of the most delusional people, as many other men that follow in the same footsteps. These men are all cut from the same cloth, people. And I'm going to prove that on this episode today. That's why this episode is going to be a little longer, because the psychosis behind this toxic type of individual, which I should say individuals, because many of you are experiencing them as I speak and you don't even know it. And some of you, a lot of you that are in this word, in this truth, that are seeking the word of the Most High and following his principles, you're feeling this right now. You've been feeling it for years. Some of you have been feeling it for months. Some of you have been feeling it for years. Some of you have been feeling it for weeks. And I'm going to shed some light on it. All praise to the Most High for that, because enough is enough. You know, they thought that by tribally gaslighting me and slandering my name, they thought that I was going to wither away. People were saying, I wouldn't be surprised if Aura doesn't ever do a podcast show again, right? It was the miscreant, can't even call him a brother, the miscreant by the name of A&H Radio. You know what I mean? And I could say some choice words, but I'm going to save those choice words for this individual from St. Louis, because, bro, you can't hold the candle to me. So save it. You know what I'm saying? Keep your trolling to yourself. Keep your self-destructive ways to yourself, because you don't want it over here. But in all reality, what I will say is this, is that birds of a feather flock together. And a lot of you that are having that intuitional thought that something's not right, is because the Most High wants you to take you out of it. So I hope and pray that some of the information, if not all, that is provided in today's broadcast is going to show you enough truth that intuitive, that the higher self, what the higher self is telling you, the spirit, starts to make a difference, and you start to listen. Because many of you are being misled. Many of you are with these, congregations or groups and cults and all types of stuff, and you're truly being misled. And it's time that you stop giving benefits to the doubt for their doubts. Stop giving benefits for the doubts, because that's what's keeping you in and stuck and hostage in these environments that are fully toxic and also are misleading you, most importantly. And a lot of these men are going to have to answer for that. Best believe it. And it doesn't have to be us that makes them answer, but it is our responsibility that we get away from them. Because I'm going to tell you something, ever since I got away from supporting this particular platform, okay, I've been a lot lighter, and I've seen things a lot clearer, and I can hear the scriptures being read by brothers and sisters that I care about a lot more accordingly to how it's supposed to be received and read, or read and be received by me. And what I realized is that the way I was receiving the word wasn't right, because the word and the way it was being read wasn't right, because it was fitting one man's narrative. Just like many of you have these brothers in these congregations, or wherever they may hold seat in the pulpits, or wherever they stand to speak this word, they are giving you a narrative of what fits their narrative. That's why you got to pay close attention to how they read the word, because sometimes if you hear one of these brothers say, hey, They'll read a scripture and they say, I agree with that. Well, what the hell does that mean? I agree with that. Why would you agree with the scriptures? You can't, that's just basically telling you that whatever scripture they're reading has to agree with their narrative. Because you know what? I don't have to say I agree with the Most High's word. I just need to understand it. There's nothing to agree with. Okay? The ego does a lot of agreeing and deciphering like that. But the truth is absolute. There's nothing to agree with. It just is. And either you in it or you're not. And you always hear me say, brothers and sisters, there's no gray area. Okay? There ain't no half stepping. Now, let's start this up real quick because this man, okay, his name is George Conway. He was married to the press secretary or whatever. He's married to the press secretary for Donald Trump when he was in presidency with his administration. Okay. Now I want you to hear something he says in regards to his allegiance and his confidence in this man and how, of course, it slowly changed because the truth is the truth. Sometimes, you know, we give people the benefit of the doubt that don't even deserve that at all by their behavior, but yet we do it because we respect them and see them in a certain light because their narcissism has been planting seeds in your mind for years. Okay? Now let's continue. Let's listen to what George Conway, he's a Harvard University, Yale Law School grad, and he voted Republican since 1980.
My wife was Donald Trump's campaign manager and now is counselor to the president.
And he said a lot about this since.
I was a Republican since probably about 1980 when Ronald Reagan was elected president. I voted for Donald Trump in 2016, and I almost took a job in the Justice Department myself to run the civil division of the Department of Justice. Donald Trump wasn't my first choice among the Republican nominees, but...
Let's stop it right there. He wasn't his first choice, okay? Not his first choice. So already, because he's not his first choice, he's already putting his mindset like, all right, well, this is the guy I got to deal with, right? Let's continue.
I was hopeful that he would calm down and get better as time went on.
Does that sound familiar, people, with the people that you follow, with the people or the men or even women that you look up to, that you know that sometimes they don't do the right thing and you're hoping that they're going to change their ways? It's just like a relationship between a man and a woman. All right. A lot of times we create this fantasy of the potentiality of what a person could be because that's what we want to see. We want to see the best in the individual. That's what's called empathy. When a person has empathy, we want to empathize with the human being. We want to empathize with the spiritual being having the physical experience. But yet, most of the time, if not all the time, the person that you see potential in does not see that potential in themselves because why? They are very comfortable with being lesser than what they could be because they've convinced themselves, the narc has convinced themselves that this is who they are. And it's usually through some trauma, and it's trauma that's experienced early on. All right. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later because I've talked about it before, but we're going to touch on it again. So let's hear what he has to say. And he's going to say the magic words of this episode today.
He started to show a little more discipline. He would only go off the rails every third day instead of every day. But the problem was, once he got into the supreme position of power, he lost some of his incentive to be disciplined. And I'm thinking at this point,
you see how he said he lost his incentive to this discipline of being respectable. Okay. I seen that happen in the platform that I used to follow. I seen that happen years ago. And I was hoping that this man was going to get better, but he didn't. He just got worse. And one of the things that I heard him say that really made me feel like, damn, this is not going to get better. This is only going to get worse. was when he was interviewing a woman that was promoting a festival in Polk County, Florida. And she had suggested to this man that he should come out with his family. And the first thing he said, and he tried to make it sound like a joke because they're very cunning people. They're very careful in the way they choose their words, because even though they're exposing themselves, they're also masquerading at the same time. And if you're not fully aware of these types of people, you're not going to catch it. But I was aware. That's one of the reasons why I was slandered and ostracized, and literally they try to take me out, or he tried to take me out. Take me out with his Discord. All right. Because that's what he does. But that's what they all do. They're all cut from the same cloth, people. And I know that some of you that are experienced this is going to make a lot of sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's because you're giving the benefit of the doubt, and you need to stop. Because once you do, it's going to free your spirit to seeing the truth of the matter and the truth of the circumstances that you are experiencing. Okay, let's continue.
Point in time, what is wrong with him? Donald Trump is like a practical joke that got out of hand. That's the...
And by the way, I got so pumped up. What I heard the man say, so that I can complete that thought, is that when the woman asked him to come out, the first thing he said, jokingly, "Oh, I don't know about that. I might need some security." And see, that is a telltale sign of delusions of grandeur and of a malignant narcissist, because one of the things of a malignant narcissist is they're extremely paranoid. So you're paranoid that you're going to need security. Why? Because people want to hurt you? Well, why do people want to hurt you? Why do so many people want to punch you in your two-tone face? There's a reason for that. Why is it that you're moving so much? There's a reason for that. But also, your level of vanity and of ego, you're such an egomaniac that you're telling another person that's genuinely, sincerely inviting to an event, and you're telling them that you're going to need security? Like you're Michael Jackson or somebody? You know what I'm saying? Like you're the president? You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't make any sense. But you see, when people hear this, some people might say, hey, why would he say something like that? Because he's feeling himself way too much for no reason. And on top of that, he's a narc. That's what they do. And then what do? Oh, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's stop doing that. Let's continue.
The problem. I didn't go into the administration for a lot of reasons, but the fundamental reason was it was a mess. I guess I must have been Googling Trump and mental health, because I clearly thought there's something seriously wrong with him. And I came across an article in Rolling Stone.
And in the article, it says pathological narcissism, the key to Trump's behavior. Facts.
Magazine, is Trump a malignant narcissist? And a number of people like Dr. Gartner were interviewed. And as soon as I read that, I realized, oh, that's it.
Now, here's the reason why. Okay, so now we're going to hear from Dr. John Gartner, who's a psychologist for many, many, many years, and also an author, a successful one. All right, brothers and sisters, narcissism is on a rise in this country. Okay, it is the very reason why so many people looked at this man as their father, as their uncle, as their grandfather, as their brother. A lot of people that never even met this man would take a bullet for this man. Just like people would say that they would take a bullet for these other brothers. And the reason I call them brothers is because they are brothers in this truth with the Most High. And even though they are defying the Most High, they still are brothers, but they're lost in the sauce. Okay? They're lost. They're lost in their own egos, and they're lost in their own self-destructive behavior. and they're drawing you into it, and they're sensationalizing things to bring that excitement, but they ain't worth nothing, okay? They are an abomination, straight up, all of them. Now let's hear about the malignant narcissist.
You cannot understand his presidency without knowing this.
My name is John Gartner. I'm a psychologist. I taught in the Department of Psychiatry at Johns Hopkins University for 28 years. I've written some books, and I'm the founder of Duty to Warn, an organization of mental health professionals that believe that Donald Trump should be removed because he's psychologically unfit.
My name is Lance Dotis. I'm a psychiatrist and a psychoanalyst.
Now, before we continue, a lot of these men and women that hold these positions of power and authority, all right, like these people that I've talked about, okay, they have no business being there, especially when there's no checks and balances. That's why it's so hard or damn near impossible for a narcissist to repent. Repentance is the last thing on their mind, okay? Self-pity is going to come way before repentance, if it even comes. Because a lot of these people are unrepentable, okay? And I know that's a harsh statement because it's like anything is possible through the Most High, yes. But they first have to seek the Most High. They first have to ask the Most High for repentance when they don't. And the proof is in the pudding, people, all right? Because what I'm learning more and more is that not only about repentance, but when we are congregating, the foundation, as brothers that are in this truth, understand, and that I'm learning from, the foundation is in the Most High. It's in the Messiah. It's in that Christ doctrine of certain principles that are laid out in instructions before we leave this earth as upright men and women, as children in this truth, as children of the Most High. And this is in everything. This is in everything. The Most High is in everything. And you've heard me talk about when bad things happen, like this bad thing that happened to me, which wasn't even that bad, people, honestly. It wasn't that bad. One of the reasons why I took a break, because I had to reassess, and I didn't want to do it from anger, because that's what I was feeling. I was feeling anger. I was feeling very disrespected. Just like how I grew up in the Bronx, if you had somebody disrespecting you, then you had to end it. You had to confront that person. But this is different. This is not the streets, okay? But it still operates as the streets. But we have to be upright, because the Most High doesn't want us to get negative. The Most High doesn't want us to give that same energy that the antagonist, being the narc, is giving us. And that's the hard part, people. It's easier said than done. That's why I had to take a break. But now I'm back and I'm humble. And I come with this message to y'all with great humility here on the Network of Awareness, because it's all about awareness here. And it's all about uncovering the long legacy of lies so that we could better understand the truth of the Most High. All praises for that. Let's continue.
I've spent most of my research career looking at compulsive and addictive behavior. And I've become interested in the importance of psychology and politics in recent years because of the
Dr.
threat
Lance
to our country.
Doles.
My name is Justin Frank.
This is Justin
psychoanalyst
Frank.
And a psychiatrist. I've been in practice in D.C. for about 40 years. Is Donald Trump fit to serve as the president and commander-in-chief? I can answer that with one word: no. Trump is a sociopath, a sadist, a con artist, a racist, a misogynist, a sexist in general. And I think it is a problem.
We're gonna learn more about the sadism, because a lot of these narcs in these congregations and churches and cults, a lot of them are sadists, all of them. It's one of the key characteristics and personality traits of a narcissist is the sadism. And that sadism is what lacks the empathy. There's no empathy there. That's why they could pretty much, attack us, the children of the Most High, in ways that are unimaginable, and enjoy it. Just like if any of you heard, which probably many of you told me don't care to hear it, but the episode where I was being attacked, which was for a whole month, but the original first 2 episodes, you can tell that this man was taking great delight in slandering my name with nothing but lies. Everything he said was a lie. Every single thing. The sad part about it is that these lies were so outrageously obvious that some of it was based on things that I said on audio, recorded information, and lied about what I said that you can go back and hear it, but people still believe them. And that's because with these narcs, and because they've been planting seed in the people that follow them for so long, these people are under a spell. See, I wasn't under a spell. I was part of a cult, though. I didn't realize it. I was a part of a cult, but I wasn't really under the spell, because my platform, I was dispelling a lot of the bullshit, as I was supposed to do. And I didn't even really want to until I started hearing all of these innuendo statements being thrown about me, to the point that it started becoming very, very obvious. And I had to make a decision, and I made the right one, where I was like, you know what? Let me just expose the lie by telling people the truth, sincerely and authentically. And I was doing it through interviews, through my own solo casting, and through other information that was being provided, dispelling all the bullshit that was coming from this one man. Okay? Because enough is enough. Let me tell you something. I'm going to expose a narc from here on out. If I ever see a narc attacking one of my brothers and sisters, or even a stranger, okay, I'm going to protect. I'm going to fight I'm going to fight so that they can maintain their sanity, because this is a matter of life and death. And there's a lot of brothers and sisters that are suffering greatly due to this type of antagonistic, narcissistic abuse. And it needs to come to the end. And a lot of you can put it to an end when you stop giving benefits for the doubt.
How dare liberals, people on the...
This guy's a phony, because he's protecting Trump. But this is the guy, I forgot his name. He was on the charter for Jeffrey Epstein's island, and he had sex with underage girls. All right. So I want to bring it up to this part. Let's see where we're at.
The election campaign's in full swing in New Hampshire, bellwether state of the nation, that goes to the polls on March 10th. And growing support for Goldwater. Okay, so Goldwater had psychiatrists say that he was mentally unfit to be president back in the, I believe in the 1940s or 50s. So we're going to play it there, but what I'm going to get to is the diagnosis, or not even so much that there is no diagnosis for narcissism, but just the characteristics and the personality traits, how they will describe. But what he's also going to discuss is that psychology back in the days was through Sigmund Freud. It was the Freudian way of psychology, which he was another word of authority for decades. And if many of you don't know, if you do your research on Freud, on Sigmund Freud, the man literally wrote thesis upon thesis when it comes to psychology doctrine, high on cocaine. Enough said. Let's continue.
So the Goldwater rule has an interesting history. In 1964, Barry Goldwater ran for president, and a now defunct magazine, Fact Magazine, did a survey of psychiatrists and published an article saying psychiatrists think that Goldwater is unfit. Goldwater sued them, and he won. And as it turns out, actually, he deserved to win. It was libelous. He was not unstable. And the psychiatrists who wrote those statements about Goldwater, it's important for people to understand the history of our field. This was in the 60s when Freudian psychiatry really ruled the roost.
Okay. So as he said, Freudian psychology ruled the roost. Okay. Now, what you're going to hear is a quick clip, okay, from Freud in The Hidden Nature of Man. This is a guy playing Freud in this is from 1970. And you're going to hear a statement from him.
This is what I've discovered. We are constantly bedeviled by powerful unconscious forces in our beings.
And so their explanations were things like, he's a latent homosexual. He's been scarred by his potty training. He has an unresolved Oedipus complex.
Based on unconscious hate of his own father, caused by childhood jealousy.
And see, this is where they were running a smear campaign on this President Goldwater. Some of the things they said is, this is no different from gaslighting, which we're going to learn about as well. It's apparent that Goldwater hates and fears his wife, was one statement. The other statement was, he is a mass murderer at heart. It says, he has never forgiven his father for being a Jew. These are just some of the things, people.
Freudian psychiatry, though it has many important and positive aspects and helped move the profession forward, it's not been used well in terms of its analyzing public figures. I actually interviewed the last living member of the ethics committee that formed the Goldwater rule, and he said these were obviously wild speculations. They weren't founded in fact, and so they embarrassed the profession because they were really idle speculations. And so that's why they passed that rule. He said to me, we never intended it to be a gag order, meaning that psychiatrists could never speak up about public figures. We just didn't want them making unfounded statements.
The Goldwater rule today has been incorrectly extended. And the incorrect part about it is that it now is being used to suppress speech about things that are knowable.
And just to let you know, what he said is happening with everything when it comes to freedom of speech. That's why they're taking a lot of these laws that were passed like a century ago, and they're still putting them in effect and distorting them to censor freedom of speech. And it's happening all over this country at a speed and at a rate that we've never seen before since the history of this demonic country called United Shenanigans of America.
It's as nonsensical as saying an orthopedic surgeon shouldn't be able to watch somebody in a football injury and say that person probably has an ACL tear. He can say it because he's an expert in the field. Something happened, he observed it.
And what people need to understand is that actually the psychiatric interview is the least reliable method of making a diagnosis, because our current diagnostic system, the DSM, is based on observable.
And this is another shit show, which is called the DSM-5. All right. Now, the DSM-5 is a diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders that's written by the psychiatrists and psychologists collectively. And then there's a board that approves the diagnostic material that's provided based on statistical data. Okay. But a lot of it is fugazi. It's fluff. A lot of it is, it's not accurate, to say the least.
Behavioral criteria. Well, when you meet with someone, they can lie to you. So they can say, oh, I never did that, or I don't do that. But if you could actually observe their behavior, if you could follow them around, if you could watch them on TV, if you could read their social media, if you could talk to all their significant others, you'd probably get a much more reliable indicator of how they behave.
Facts. Well said. Because I guarantee you, a lot of you, and I heard the brothers talking about earlier today on that video I watched, the brother that was conducting the video was talking about how he had a very, very intimate relationship with this leader, okay, or supposed elder, because I don't even like using that word, but elder, and this relationship that he had with this elder, was very intimate. So he got to see a lot of this man's corruption. And I guarantee you, brothers and sisters, especially that one of the things that some of us are not fortunate enough to have is that some of us are following people virtually, through platforms where you don't get to build those intimate relationships. And it's those very people that have these cult-like platforms, they get to bullshit you a lot better because you're not intimately involved with them. You're not there to see how they really operate, but their family does. Their siblings know. Their prospective spouses and partners in their relationships know. Their children know. Their closest friends, if they have any, because a lot of them don't have friends. Let's just make that clear. And then some of them do. And if they do have friends, those friends are being used for a specific purpose and nothing more and nothing less, because the narcissist only uses you. They don't support or do anything for you for the purposes of love or admiration or simply because they can empathize and sympathize in your experience as an individual human being. They don't give a shit about that. All they care about is themselves. And that's where it starts and that's where it ends with the narc. Now, let me bring this up a little bit so that we can get a clear understanding here. Let's go.
One of my favorite books is a book called Lincoln's Melancholy, about how Lincoln's being a depressive personality is part of what allowed him to win the Civil War. He had a capacity to endure mental suffering that was baked in to who he was. And so the enormous burden of the Civil War was something he was actually able to endure.
And let me also say this in reference to that. And this is a message to all you brothers that have endured and sisters that have survived these attacks. Do not think for a second that the Most High is not in control of all of this. Because at the end of the day, those of us that have been chastised, those of us that have gone through the great suffering, those of us that have been ostracized and tribally gaslighted, attacked, we've endured, okay? Even through the great suffering that I know some of you are still suffering from, we endure. We endure this, and we're built for it. The Most High makes no mistakes. So a lot of us that get attacked, we can withstand the attack. But understand this. When we're getting attacked, it is our responsibility to endure, overcome, and to rise up from it and become better than we was before and to serve others better than we did before. And that's what I'm attempting to do here, is to serve you brothers and sisters, because personally for me, not just for the people that are listening to this around the world, but this message is specifically for those brothers and sisters that are still following that platform, that have that feeling that something ain't right. Okay? Stop giving the benefit of the doubts. This is for you. This is for you. I'm doing this for y'all. I'm doing this for y'all because I know that your intentions are for the Most High Yah. I know they are. All right? Let's continue.
Seeing what's happened in this last 4 years, when in my state, when people lose their jobs, there's a good chance I'll know them by their names.
Bill Clinton. I wrote a biography of Bill Clinton about how his hypomania was part of what energized him in terms of his charisma and his creativity and it all.
Now, let's not get it twisted, people. All presidents are narcissists. All of them. Okay? Now, you could paint the pretty picture around Clinton and John F. Kennedy and all these presidents, but they were all narcissists. Now, I wouldn't say they were malignant, not all of them, like a Trump, but they all are narcissists. They can't be in that position of power without being one. Because in those types of positions, whether it be in corporate America, whether it be in sports, whatever, the narcissist is always going to thrive in this corporation type environment. And what is the United States of America? It's a corporation. It's not a country. Just think about that for a moment.
Also had to do with his impulse control problems and his hypersexuality, so it was a double-edged sword. But it doesn't just qualify someone for being president if they have a psychological disorder. But Donald Trump shows clear signs of the most severe personality disorder. It's called malignant narcissism, and it was first introduced by Erich Fromm, who escaped the Nazis and spent a lot of his life trying to understand the psychology of evil.
Studying the psychology of evil, key word, because this behavior is evil. Now let's look at some of the personality traits of a malignant narcissist, and you tell me if it fits some of these people that you are currently following, or that used to follow, or that are currently congregating with.
And he formulated this diagnosis of malignant narcissism, which has 4 components: narcissism, paranoia, antisocial personality disorder, and sadism.
Boom, drop the mic. There it goes. Narcissism, paranoia, antisocial personality disorder, right? I can tell you that the narc that I used to follow always talks about, oh, I don't like being around a lot of people. I don't have any friends and all of this bullshit, right? And then, of course, the sadism, which is when they gaslight you or when they start to ostracize you and they just start planting seeds in other people's brains and they start triangulating. And what triangulation is, for those that don't know, is they start pinning people against you, okay? That's what they do. And I can tell you, from my personal experience, that I dealt with this, not only with this platform, but I also dealt with this within my own marriage, within my own personal relationship that doesn't even exist anymore. That partnership is done. And I had to get away from that partnership with this woman because these types of personality traits, people, are so toxic to the person that does care, that is empathetic, the person that is trying and pursuing to do what is right by themselves, by others, and most importantly, for the Most High. And these are the types of people that can stray you away from the Most High in ways that you can never imagine. Let's continue.
I think everybody knows Donald Trump's a narcissist by now.
I will be the greatest jobs producer that God ever created.
I know more about ISIS than the generals do.
And you see how I'm laughing? You know how many millions of Americans were laughing like this? The fact that they made them laugh, that he made them laugh, was good enough for them to be like, hey, I'll vote for him, man. I ain't never got a good laugh like this before. All right?
Believe me.
Who are you consulting with consistently so that you're ready on day one?
And now that this has popped into my head, because I can't believe I almost forgot this, it doesn't surprise me that this man's platform that I used to follow, when I heard him used to say, oh, you know, if I like that Trump took office because he tell it like it is, and he's gonna make things pop off, and we need for things to pop off already, you know, in this country. And by popping off, meaning like civil unrest and anarchy and all that other stuff. But I paid close attention to that because I said to myself, I was like, okay, I see how you're moving. I see why you like this man, because birds of a feather flock together. And the very personality traits that he saw in this man were very admirable to him. Because why? Because he operates in that manner. They like seeing other people get hurt by other people. And I'm going to do an episode in my narcissism series, just as a spoiler alert. It's going to be called Hurt People, okay? And that's for another show for another day. But let's continue to hear of how this person operates, okay?
But he's also paranoid. So all of his crazy conspiracy theories.
The state of Hawaii released my official long-form birth certificate.
The birth certificate was produced in 2011. You continued to tell the story and question the president's legitimacy in 2012, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah. How about this one about Ted Cruz's?
Now, you see how he said, yeah. I've experienced this a lot this year with these types of people where it's like you point out that whatever they said or did was a lie, and here's the proof. And they're still going to lie to you. They're still going to lie to you. You know, I had a situation where my ex-wife literally came back to the platform and liked it, and I caught it. Something in my spirit said, let me go check it out. I saw her liking. I said, hey, why was you liking this man's episode? I thought you was done with that. I thought you was blocked or whatever. And she was like, yeah. I didn't do that. I'm like, but of course, because I know that I'm dealing with a narc, I had to take a screenshot of it. So I said, listen, here, let me send you the screenshot. Oh, yeah, I did. I did check it out because I wanted to see if they were talking shit about me and all of that. I said, why? I said, but you just said you didn't. And I said, and you liked it. Oh, I must have did that by accident. Which people, we know that's all bullshit, right? I mean, obviously, it's quite obvious. But this is how they operate. This is what they do. You could catch their hand red-handed in the cookie jar. And they're going to be like, nah, you don't see that. That's your mind playing tricks on you.
His father was with Lee Harvey Oswald prior to Oswald's being shot, and nobody even brings it up.
And his sense of being a victim.
Mr. Trump turned his sights on Google.
Very much so. His sense of being a victim. They played the victim card very well. Matter of fact, the video that I saw of Mr. Cortez today was just that, playing a victim card. Like, what? Why when people question you about this and that, like they just don't understand that you do things differently and all this bullshit. It's like, no, people are checking you, homie, and you need to repent. You need to say, hey, I was wrong. And then you need to say, Most High, please forgive me for my iniquities. Please forgive me for all of the error. And please forgive me for misleading your children away from the truth and away from coming back to the principles that have been laid out for the children of Israel. Okay? Enough is enough. No more benefits for the doubts, people.
Tweeting, they have it rigged for me and others so that almost all stories and news is bad.
And his demonization of anyone who disagrees with him.
Nasty guy. Now I know why he doesn't have
demonization with anyone that agrees with him or doesn't agree with him. Does that sound familiar, people? Does that sound familiar to all you people that are listening from your perspective, congregations and platforms that you follow and cults that you don't even know that you're in and churches that you go to? What happens when you don't agree with the pastor? What happens when you don't agree with the elder? What happens when you don't agree with the cult leader? They demonize you. And then they start to create extreme discord. Why? Because they are disciples of discord.
one endorsement from any of his colleagues.
All right, John, I get to respond.
Pick from the buffet there. He's a nasty guy.
These are all signs of a paranoid process. Antisocial personality disorder, or what used to be called psychopathy or sociopathy. It's constant lying. Well, he's the most documented liar in human history, I think, at this point. It's violating the rights of other people and exploiting other people. So sexual assault would be violating the rights of other people. Not paying your bills or defrauding people through Trump University would be an example of exploiting other people. And it's breaking laws and breaking norms. Well, he's broken every norm of the presidency. That's one of the reasons he's so out of control. There are certain norms you thought no one would ever break. But it's part of his personality disorder to break norms and to break laws. And it's a lack of remorse. He has no guilt or anxiety about the destructive things that he does.
Impeachment for that? It was beautiful. It was just a perfect conversation.
And the fourth component that Erich Fromm identified is sadism. Truly taking pleasure in harming, humiliating, and degrading other human beings. If you read his tweets,
Bam. You see, everything he's breaking down, I didn't want to interfere and interject on each one. I wanted them all to play out. But that's what they do, people. That's what was done to me and many other brothers. And I'm okay because it's probably one of the best things that happened to me. And I say the same to you, brothers and sisters, that it's happening to or going to or has, is that when it's bad, it's still all good. I did an episode on that because guess what? The Most High is in everything. So when something bad is happening, there's something good to take from it. That's the Most High. That's the Most High refining you. That's the Most High putting you through the fire so that you can come out so much more aware and prepared to continue on for the battle and for the warfare, which is spiritual. Okay? Just keep that in mind, because through all this demonization that they enjoy so much when they're slandering you, just like this man. I mean, if you could only hear in his voice how much fun he was having, and almost like you can tell that he was waiting, like this was something that was building in him for a whole entire year, and then it just all came out, blah, like vomit, because that's what it was. It was spiritual vomit that he was spewing, and it was all nothing but lies. And what was interesting about it was that when it became tribal, when all of his yes men came into the fold and started talking, and his yes woman, I mean, it just got more and more ridiculous, to the point where it was like, I was an agent, I'm this, I'm that, I'm all these things, but yet I'm not. But they made it so believable. And what's interesting is that you could tell that I had a lot of haters. I had a lot of jealousy in that camp or in that cult, because people were saying stuff like, oh yeah, his podcast is whack. I only listened to like 20 episodes, but it wasn't good. It's like, what? Oh man, some of the stuff that I was reading, I was just like, whoa. It's like, yeah, his podcast sucked. I only listened to like 20 episodes. Enough said. Let's continue.
I wrote an introduction to a book about his tweets. I had to read thousands of his tweets, and they literally made me ill, because it was just one vicious attack on and humiliating insult after another. It's like, how can someone even come up with thousands of vicious things to say about so many people? But he enjoys degrading and humiliating and insulting other people.
I do think that.
And that's what it is, folks. They enjoy the process of humiliation. They really do. All right, now we're going to learn about the Tarasov rule, which is a very interesting thing.
I do think that we have enough evidence that most psychiatrists would feel like it's important to warn about Trump. We have a duty to warn.
And that's what I have a duty to do as a brother, as a child of the Most High, as somebody who knows right from wrong. I have a duty to warn you people. And I really want to warn those that were in that cult with me that are still there, that know something's wrong. But the reason they stay there, people, and the reason why they haven't spoken up about anything is because they are afraid that what happened to me and other brothers and sisters before me is going to happen to them. And they're like, I don't want to be put to shame, or I don't want to be put through the fire by this man. I don't want him to be slandering me and, talking stuff about me, because he knows a lot of these people's business. A lot of these people have gotten coaching sessions with him. So he knows a lot of personal information about them. And he uses that information for content on his show, which is a complete disrespect and disregard for confidentiality. But yet nobody checks him. Why? Because he doesn't have any checks and balances. He's the HNIC, and it's only him. And he's got a bunch of yes people and he's got less yes people and more benefit of the doubt people. No more benefits for the doubts people.
Psychologists and really all mental health professionals have the duty to protect society if there's a risk to society.
Here's the Tarasov rule, which the Tarasov rule imposes a duty on a therapist to warn appropriate person or persons when a patient may present a risk of harm to a specific person or persons. Well, here it is. Here is the warning. Don't give no more benefits to the doubt to these people that are misleading you, that are leading you astray from Israel, brothers and sisters, that are leading you astray from the truth and the word of the Most High, because what they're doing is they're decompartmentalizing the truth and then creating narratives for every decompartmentalization of the truth. And I'm speaking from the spirit now. I didn't come on this show to slander anybody, to put anybody down, but enough is enough, okay? This is what they do, and I just want to put this out the best way I know how, brothers and sisters. Let's continue.
So the Tarasov case was in the 1970s. A patient said to a psychologist, I'm going to go home and murder my girlfriend. The psychologist didn't warn the potential victim, and the patient went home and killed the girlfriend. And it's now the law in all 50 states.
Now, I know that there's been brothers and sisters that have been hurt by this. I know that when I got my tribal gaslighting, there were people that were threatening me. Now, granted, a lot of them were young. A lot of them were in between the ages of 20 to about 30, okay? But what if one of these people that threatened me based on this man's legacy of lies about me and about who he is and what he represents and what I did to him and used other people as a scapegoat, used another brother as the scapegoat for this slandering and for this attack on me to demonize me, okay? What if one of these people would have came to hurt me physically, okay? Which I was preparing myself for, because if I'm going to go out fighting. Okay, death is just a moment of an experience. It is a transitional phase that is probably one of the quickest things that you will experience ever. So I'm not in fear of that. I was more upset that this was happening at such a fast rate based on a bunch of lies. And this is the crazy part, is that a lot of you brothers and sisters that are experiencing this or will be, they love you. They say, no, they love you. They do this. They appreciate you. Oh, Aura's a good dude. Aura's a good dude. You should check out his podcast. You know, I interviewed this person. I was one of the only people, if not, that ever interviewed this man. And I was very sincere. But yet, with all of the support, with all of the good things that came out of it, still the jealousy, the animosity, the content, the overall hate and vile wickedness still came out, because once a narc, always a narc. Okay. And one thing that the narc hates is when somebody is in their environment that's really truthful, honest, empathetic, sympathetic, generous, respectful, and it has a high level of integrity and discipline to righteousness. They don't like that, because that goes against their narrative. And they also look at you as a threat, because the way the truth works and the way the Most High works is the truth is always going to prevail. So even if somebody like myself that wasn't in the limelight, because my platform was pursuing that truth and was speaking that truth, he couldn't handle it no more. And once I brought Brother Julian onto the show, and we had that very impactful show where the brother really shed light on his coming up to this word and to his, allegiance to the Most High Christ, that show was very powerful, and it upset the narc. It upset him on levels that we will probably never be able to understand. And that started to set a crash course for the attack that soon came right after.
That if you are aware that a patient might be a danger to someone, confidentiality goes out the window. And confidentiality is one of our core values, but it's more important to warn someone who could be harmed than it is to maintain even our core value of confidentiality.
And it's important that I do this episode to warn my brothers and sisters that I love. I really do, and that I pray for, and I still will pray. I will even pray for these disciples of discord as I do, because they need to repent. They really need to get themselves in order. They need to reinvent themselves with the truth of the Most High, instead of whatever this invention of this delusions of grandeur that they've created for themselves to make other people believe by planting seeds in their mind, carefully and cunningly. Now, let's continue.
Trump is not my patient. He's not saying I'm going to go kill my girlfriend. But the number of people who are at risk, the number of people who could be harmed isn't one person. It's hundreds of millions of people. So if we didn't speak up, that would be the immorality. What annoys me about the Goldwater Rule, the way it's being interpreted now, is...
Sounds familiar, brothers and sisters? These people are affecting hundreds, if not thousands of people. Or in Trump's case, millions of Americans and millions of people around the world. You know, because it's our duty as children of the Most High that when our brothers and sisters in this truth are being misled, we have to stand up as warriors. And listen, not everybody is capable of doing that. I understand. But at least you could take the responsibility of making sure that you make the right decision and not attach yourself to this type of energy, because it's toxic to the core of it.
It's being interpreted as if we are being unethical by speaking out and warning the public, when in fact, I ask this question: to whom will history be kinder? Those who spoke up during the age when Trump rose, or those who were silent?
And I ask this question: who is the Most High going to favor in time of judgment? Those that fought and taught the right way for his everlasting light, or those that remained silent and allowed our brothers and sisters to be succumbed by this toxic behavior, by this narcissistic behavior, by these disciples of discord?
I want the cleanest water on earth. I want the cleanest air on earth. And that's what we're doing. And I'm an environmentalist. A lot of people don't understand that. I have done more environmental impact statements probably than anybody that's, I guess I can say definitely, because I've done many, many, many of them. More than anybody that's ever been president or vice president or anything even close to president. And I think I know more about the environment than most people.
Got to take a deep breath for that, right? That's how many of you, that's how I was sometimes when I would hear the narc talk. I just take a deep breath and give him the benefit of the doubt. But we can't give no benefits of the doubt no more. Now this, people, this right here, this is it. This is the meat and potatoes, so to speak, right here. This is called gaslighting. I want y'all to pay close attention to this, because this is one of the primary psychological functions of how a narcissist operates. It's called gaslighting. Here we go.
Gaslighting is a crucial tool of abusive personalities. It is lying to someone in a way that makes them doubt their own perception of reality.
Boom, there you go. I can tell you from my own experiences recently and for this past year, this is what I was going through in my marriage or in my relationship with a woman that I committed to under the Most High. All right. Now, obviously, she wasn't really committed to the Most High, and the Most High wasn't part of her foundation, but I believed it was our foundation, only to find out that it was a big lie. But this is what they do. They skew your perceptions so much so that you start thinking that you're going crazy, that you are confused. So here is Dr. Ramani Darfasula, who I appreciate so much, because a lot of my information that I've gathered in the last several months, especially when I started to realize that my narcissistic abuse was real, this is one of the professionals that I turned to really getting an understanding of what it was I was experiencing.
Dr. Ramani Devasala. I'm a professor of psychology.
So she's a clinical psychologist from UCLA.
It's an interesting place where the origin of this.
And she also wrote a book that I definitely suggest many of you brothers get to and sisters get to understand this a lot better. It's called Should I Stay or Should I Go? Surviving a Relationship with a Narcissist. And I'm going to tell you from my own personal opinion and experience, go fast, get out as soon as you can.
This term gaslight came from. It came from what was a play in the 30s and then became a film called Gaslight. And it was about a man who was slowly trying to drive his wife mad.
A moment ago, the gas dimmed as it does when someone turns on another light in the house. Did you turn on another light, Elizabeth? No, ma'am. There's no one in the house but us.
The gas lights kept getting turned up and down, and he was denying having done it.
You're going.
Check it out. So he was literally messing with the gas light, turning it on and off and dimming it and making his wife go crazy while he's doing it the whole time. This is what they do, people, and they're really good at it.
Is he a doctor, madam?
No.
More than one doctor tomorrow morning.
Very common sorts of gaslighting statements are things like, it never happened that way, you must be losing your mind. They'll literally say things happened that didn't happen. I didn't do that, I didn't say that. Many people call gaslighting a form of emotional abuse because what you're really doing is setting out to confuse another person. When you confuse someone like that, you really do almost render them more vulnerable to you and actually easier to coerce because now they don't really know which way is up. It's as though you've sort of turned gravity off and turned them upside down.
And you see, and that's what these disciples of Discord do, because they turn things upside down so much that you think that that is normal. And that's why a lot of people still claim allegiance to these people, is because he's turned or she's turned their world upside down and made it their truth. And that's how they see it now. So they don't even know that they're mentally discombobulated. They think that they're perfectly fine.
I don't know if you remember the point where Trump said, listen, don't pay attention to what you're seeing. Don't pay attention to what you're hearing.
What you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening.
And it's interesting because as human beings, we're actually vulnerable to this. There's a famous experiment in social psychology called the Asch experiment. The Asch experiment is they show lines on a screen. One is clearly longer than the other. And they ask someone which line is longer. And they get it correct 100% of the time.
Two.
Then you bring in 4 Confederates who work for the experimenter, but you pretend they're also in the study as subjects. And they all say that the shorter line is longer.
3.
And what's interesting is obviously I can't provide a visual for this, but all the men that are deliberately saying 3, right? And the guy that knows the number 2 is longer now has this very, very puzzled and concerning look on his face, because he's like, how in the hell are y'all seeing that? Am I the only one that sees that the number 2 has a longer line? And now just that alone, because the room, right? The populace, the popular vote, so to speak, is all saying the same thing. And you're the only one that's actually seeing it for what it really is. It's so evil, people. This type of this thing that they do, people, it is evil. That's why I know that the seed of Satan is planted in all of this type of behavior to the core of it.
3.
50% of the time,
now he
the person will
switches and says 3. Just to be in agreement with everybody else. Okay? And this is what happens to so many of our good-hearted, righteous brothers and sisters trying to do right, trying to really live this word to the fullest. They gravitate to these individuals because the psychological warfare combined with the spiritual warfare is too much for them to handle. So it's better to go with the flow than to go against it and then get treated like you're nothing, like you're not worth nobody's time, like you are straying away from the Most High, like you're not going to have an opportunity to get your crown and your robe. It's ridiculous and it's disgusting to the core of it.
Burst themselves and say, you're right, the shorter line is the longer one. We're very subject to the influence, our reality testing is very subject to the influence of social pressures. So when he does these things that are blatantly destructive and disordered, and yet people act as if they're normal and they poo-poo these observations, eventually we begin to question ourselves and think, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's actually is normal.
What has been so disturbing is that we've discovered, at least some of us, that it's much quicker to demolish a building than to build one. And Trump understands.
It's much quicker to demolish a building than to build one. Whoa. That's a great quote because that's how they operate. You see, we as brothers and sisters in this truth, we're building individually. Okay, even if we're part of a congregation or if we're part of a cult or part of a church, yeah, we're going to church on Sunday or Saturday and we're going to our classes on the Sabbath. We're doing everything we're supposed to do, but we're building from that individually. When we go home with our families, we are practicing the very principles that we're learning from scriptures in our own life. So we are building our lives for the Most High. And that's how it's supposed to be. But with these disciples of discord, these narcissists, they see that you're building. They can see the glory in the wisdom that you are gaining and how you are disseminating that wisdom with the everlasting charity that the Most High has graced you with. And then they want to just tear it all down, right? Because they don't want your building to keep building. They don't want your building. They don't want your foundation to keep rising to serving the Most High because they want their building to just be on there. And they want everybody to see their building rising. And their building is rising through false interpretations of the doctrine of the scriptures to fit their narrative. And that's the only thing they want you to build from is the lie. Let's continue.
That. And I think he can demolish a lot of our faith as a nation in our institutions.
Bam, demolish your faith. Faith over fear, brothers and sisters. Don't allow their fear tactics to overcome your faith because your faith has to be unwavering. It has to be absolute in this truth because the truth is absolute. And all praises to the Most High for this because I am so grateful that my faith has not wavered. My faith has not diminished. My faith is only getting stronger based on these attacks because Satan has no life here. Satan has no dominion here. Okay? None whatsoever. The network of awareness is all about serving the Most High and nothing else. The foundation of this was the love and the support that the Most High gave me to have the strength to come out with this platform. And we're only getting better, not bitter. All right? Let's continue.
He can demolish the effectiveness of institutions. He can certainly psychologically confuse and gaslight people like nobody's business.
Okay. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover from this. Now, there's other things that I can bring about here. And one of the things I want to talk about is Trump's father. Now, Trump's father was in real estate. especially with low income housing. But he was very well known for not allowing people of color, black people, okay, into his housing developments. All right. And it was very much accepted. It was talked about in the media, but it was accepted. And his father made a ton of money. His father is the one that taught him how to be a narcissist. He gave him all the principles. And the underlying theme of any person who is a narcissist, like these disciples of discord, the underlying theme is that they have no empathy. Just like Trump's father had no empathy for the business he was in when it came to people. And the same thing happened with Trump. There's no empathy. They can pretty much do anything and then go play around the Gulf. One of the things they say about Trump is that he cheated at golf a lot. Okay. But one thing I want to really cover when it comes to the personality traits is this trait of antisocial personality disorder. Very important to understand. So let's get a quick education on this.
Empathy, but not everybody. People who don't have empathy are the people that we call sociopaths or psychopaths.
That sounds like a very destructive business philosophy.
They often were treated cruelly. They were treated without empathy themselves.
You talk in your book about getting even, the importance of getting even. Is revenge sweet?
I believe strongly in getting even. If somebody has hurt you, if somebody's gone out of their way to hurt you, I think that if you have the opportunity, you should certainly go out of your way to do a number on them. And I've had more criticism about that one statement in my book than any other statement. The clergy is called, the ministers, the priests, the rabbis. They've all said, what a terrible thing to say. That's against our teachings. I just believe it. I believe in an eye for an eye.
If you don't have normal empathy, you're going to mistreat people because they don't matter. There's an absence of loyalty. The absence of loyalty is a sign of antisocial personality disorder.
Boy, people, let me tell you something. When it comes to what they just said, it is so accurate that it's somewhat scary. Especially in my personal experience that I'm sharing with you, is that this antisocial personality disorder I experienced in my own relationship with my ex-partner, my wife or my ex-wife now, in my marriage, in my relationship that was very short-lived. I could tell you that this was a major problem. And it's one of the major problems with these narcs that are the word of authority in these camps, in these churches, in these platforms, in these cults, and many other toxic environments where they build this up. They build themselves up to be looked upon in a certain way. Let's continue.
Loyalty at its best means I care about this person, I value this person, so I will stick by this person. If you have a person without empathy, what you find is that loyalty disappears as soon as the other person crosses them.
And they're just showing you some of the people this man fired within days of taking office. And there was 10 of them to be exact, that he was dropping them like flies. Why? Because they wasn't in agreement on how he was handling things in the administration that they thought they were going to have say in the positions that they prospectively held.
As soon as somebody says, I'm not with you anymore, or I disagree, it flips from you are the greatest person to you are a horrible person, you are a worthless person, and I will attack you. I will do.
Sound familiar, folks? Does that sound familiar to my people out there? Is this message resonating with you? If so, if you want, you can always send me an email at aura@networkofawareness.com, or you can leave a review for this episode at networkofawareness.com. And you can download my episodes directly from my website, people. It's very easy. All right. Or you can download these shows from any platform like Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Pandora, any listening app like Audible, anything, you can listen to these shows. Okay, let's continue.
Destroy you.
You know, some of the people that were most loyal to me are people that I didn't think would be. Some of the people that were least loyal to me are people that I think I would have treated them differently. I think I would have treated different groups differently. I would have wiped the floor with the guys that weren't loyal, which I will now do, which is great. You know, I love getting even with people. But
you're going to get even with some people.
Yeah, I know. If given the opportunity, I will get even with some people that were disloyal to me.
Here comes one of the things they say about you is that there are ticks within you of vindictiveness.
The people who climb to the top by squashing other people, those are what we call a successful sociopath. Sociopaths can be successful because they're con men. If you're a con man, you're convincing them that you are much better, greater, more caring, more honest than you are.
And that's what these disciples of discord do from multiple camps and churches and congregations that they have online or whatever they have on their platforms. They're making you think that they're really this type of person, but they're not. And the moment you go against them, they're going to show you how much they're not like who they say they are. And they're going to show you that all that love that they had for you was just nothing but an illusion that is getting energy from you, the participant, to their delusions of grandeur.
My name is Rick Riley. I'm a Gulf writer, and I've known Trump for 35 years, maybe. Trump is among our best golfing presidents.
I like the title of his book. He's a writer, but he's also author of Commander-in-Cheat. And that's what these people are. They're commanders in cheat. They are commanders in cheating. They are commanders in lying. They are commanders of deception. And they are commanders of sadism.
For a 72-year-old guy, Trump is a good golfer. He's got a really good, powerful move through the ball, and he hits it a long way. And his putting is good. It's a very wristy, sort of old-school putter. Cheating in golf at all is completely wrong because it's the easiest sport to cheat at. There's no refs, there's no umps. You could cheat every shot if you wanted, but it reveals your...
And that's how these people's platform operate. A lot of their, the way they operate, they're allowed to cheat because there's no checks or balances. There's no rules to the game. They're making up the game and nobody's checking them. So they get to run rampant with a bunch of nonsense and bullshit that never gets checked. And we as the participants and the receivers, we're just left there giving a lot of benefit to the doubt.
Character that you don't, or it reveals your character that you do. And he cheats all the time.
I actually played golf with him with Anthony Anderson one day.
Gotcha.
And we were all playing together, and we clearly saw him hook a ball into a lake at Trump National in Jersey. And his caddy told him he found it.
People don't know this, but he jerry-rigs his golf carts to go really fast. He has somebody do that. Only one golf cart at every course he owns goes about 30 miles an hour, and that's his. It's number one. Everyone else goes is about 15 to 18 miles per hour. So he can hit the ball, zip, he's out. You're still, hey, where's Trump? You hit. By then he can kick the ball, move the ball, take it out of lakes, whatever. There's your ball, usually.
Isn't that grimy, people? I mean, I remember speaking to a friend of my cousin's. My cousin and her husband, they live in Wellington. And one of their neighbors in the neighborhood they live in and they live right next to the polo ground. So he's like I believe like a director over there of the events. And they would literally have to have meetings. And this is years ago. They would literally have to have meetings that whenever Trump was coming for an event, that all of the waiters and waitresses and people of the catering service or whatever, they weren't allowed to look at his toupee or his hair too long, because if they did, they'd get fired. And they couldn't make eye contact with him either. This is how this man operates. All right. And I heard this years ago before he even became president, before the discussions of him running for office were even coming into the fold. So doesn't surprise me that this man literally rigged his golf cart to go faster than everybody else so that he can rig the game of golf just so he can look like a winner. Because you see, with the narcissist, it's all about image. It's all about how people see them. And they always have to get praised and praised and praised. But they'll tell you, oh, don't praise man, right? Don't praise man. But while they're telling you not to praise man, they're getting all praise from you. It is hypocrisy to the highest form. That's how these people are. They are the biggest hypocrites ever. All right? And this is why I'm exposing them, because this type of energy that they project, it is toxic to the core of it.
You would put a mark down, pick up the ball. What he does, he secretly puts the marker on the end of the putter, and then he looks like he's marking it, but really, now the mark is 3 feet closer. That's a way easier putt. He tried to cheat Tiger Woods in a round of golf once. Tiger freaking Woods. He's off to the right. He's playing against Tiger Woods. They each have a partner. He chunks one flat into the water, splash. He says to his partner, throw me another one they didn't see. I'm like, that's Tiger Woods.
Tiger, we are inspired by everything you've become and attained. The job you've done is incredible.
He's telling people
Look at Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods looks stressed out, like he don't want to be there. Like he probably just came from the golf game and it's like, dude, you're a liar. You're a cheater. And this is what he does, people. This is what this man does. But this is what the narcissist does. They're always cheating. They're always looking to make themselves look better than what they are in whatever situation they're in. It's one of the reasons why I got attacked, because my platform was exposing his platform naturally, not even on purpose. It was just by doing the right thing and providing quality information that wasn't being repetitively driven down people's throats. Because that was another thing. I don't repeat, like I don't keep repeating stuff. The only reason why I even repeat terms like gaslighting or stuff, because it's part of the narcissism series. But as far as the concept and themes of my show, they don't get repeated, people. But when you listen to this man and many other people, they're a constant broken record. It's like, am I going to hear anything new from you? Oh, I know why I can't. Because you're constantly cheating and stealing from other people. Like this man used to steal my content and make it his own. And then talk about that I'm some Gentile that's trying to be like Judah. And that Judah's the trendsetter. And I'm the only one that can't. I'm not capable of setting trends. Like I don't have a faculty of imagination. And it was so pathetic to the core that I started getting disgusted by this rhetoric. So much so that when the attack came, it's almost like I was kind of expecting it. I just wasn't expecting it as soon as it came. But I say, better sooner than later for this one, buddy. Let's go.
He's won club championships that he didn't even play in. He won a club championship that's being played in Bedminster, New Jersey, when he was playing in Philadelphia. And he called in, said, hey, what won the club championship today? And the guy goes, 75, Joe Schmo won it. I shot 73 today, make me the champion. And the pro's like, what? Yeah,
Okay, what I want to play now in this documentary is I want to play the come up of Mussolini, who was the dictator fascist in Italy. All right, now I want you to pay close attention to this, people, because this, and they're going to talk a little bit about Trump being a racist before they break down Mussolini. But just pay close attention to what they say now.
Tomorrow, raise that hand. I love you. I love you.
He had talked about being president for many, many years with his advisor of the time, Steve Bannon, who is a white nationalist and unabashed racist. Steve Bannon considers himself a student of history, and he likes to think that he knows the cycles of history in terms of resentment and racism. And in this case, he was correct.
This is Italy in 1922. These marching men are charter members of a new Italian political party, the Fascists, founded and led by a flamboyant ex-editor, ex-army corporal, ex-socialist, Benito Mussolini.
Isn't the narc always very flamboyant? Have y'all noticed that? The narc is always flamboyant. They're all birds of a feather that flock together because they are cut from the same poisonous, malignant cloth.
His movement numbers 1 million members, including uniformed black shirts, and Mussolini successfully forces his leadership on the Italian king and people. Despite the fact that 80% of Italians still support the constitutional monarchy, his threats of violence and revolution win him the office of premier. On his first anniversary, with the aid of gunfire, kidnapping, and castor oil, he is absolute dictator.
At the time Mussolini came on the political scene in 1919, Italy was a limited democracy. People had the vote, women could vote. And Mussolini came in as a revolutionary, as a rabble-rouser to completely shake things up. One of the most crucial moments of authoritarian capture is when traditional elites invite the authoritarian in the making into power. Fascism was a very violent movement. The political establishment, these traditional conservatives, were so frightened of the continuation of the violence that they actually invited him to become prime minister. He was invited into the office, and they thought that he could be contained and he would kind of do their dirty work, and then they could control him. And tragically, that was not to be. He attacked the press. He attacked democracy as something that wasn't necessary. He joked about having term limits removed. His arch enemy, Giacomo Matteotti, the leader of the Socialist Party, was seen being taken away by fascist thugs. Eventually, his body was found, but it was a huge outrage, and a special investigation was launched with a prosecutor. And in the course of this, Mussolini's career looked like it was over, and he was being asked to resign. And to end this, he declared a dictatorship in January 1925. He changed the special prosecutors. The assassins were given light prison sentences and eventually pardoned, because dictators love to pardon criminals. And Italian society was never the same again. There are times in history when figures appear who are able to coalesce existing hatreds and anxieties that exist in a culture and form from them a movement through rallies, through propaganda, through promises to them.
We will be ending the AIDS epidemic and curing childhood cancer.
Only.
And it doesn't surprise me that the clip that I just paused it at shows somebody throwing up the Baphomet sign, the sign of the spell, the sign of Satan, all right, which is the horns from the fingers moving forward. Doesn't surprise me at all.
Only they know the truth. Only they can fix the problems.
We are finally putting America first.
My name is Cheryl Coos, and I'm a historian of interwar Europe and fascism and authoritarianism. Hitler gained his followers by promising them a better life, a better Germany. But he also had a scapegoat.
Jews as diseased and foreign objects. One of the most...
And that's one modus operandi of the narc. And I want you, brothers and sisters, to really understand this for what it is. Because they always use a scapegoat. A scapegoat was used in the slandering and the demonizing of me and my platform and of my relationship too at the time. And it was done by saying that I was doing this show to disrespect another brother, which I wasn't. Okay. But the person that he chose was one of those yes men. So he did it very strategically because he knew that the fact that of the person that he used as the scapegoat was going to be the yes man and not question him. It wasn't even set up yet. He was just thrown into the mix, but he went along with it, right? Because why? Because he was a yes man. So they're very strategic in doing the scapegoating. They're very calculated in going about this behavior when it comes to gaslighting and this other toxic behavior that they project onto the people that they want to eliminate.
The most dangerous things about authoritarian leaders is that their particular personal quirks, their obsessions, their preoccupations often become state policy.
And I think one of the manifestations of that we've seen in policy is the zero tolerance policy.
Immigration is the fault and all of the problems that we're having. You look at what's happening in Europe, you look at what's happening in other places, we can't allow that to happen to the United States, not on my watch.
The separating of children from parents. Think about the kind of mind that think, I know how we're going to restrict immigration. Let's take their children away. I mean, it's a cruel.
It's a very cruel thing. And just as a point of reference, just remember that when those children were missing and unaccounted for, how many children were missing and unaccounted for on all of the news networks? 666 children. Do you think that's a coincidence? Because if you do, you're delusional, okay? It's in plain sight. The devil, Satan, is always showing you his treachery in plain sight. And that was one of those moments where it was shown in plain sight. Let's continue.
Cruel, almost cartoonishly evil kind of thing to do.
Who's number one with Hispanics? Trump.
It's a violation of human rights to take children away from their parents. To be so uncaring about the permanent effect on these children, and it is going to be permanent, is cruel and sadistic behavior. It's completely different from saying we need to have strong borders or we need to limit immigration or something like that. Those things, if they are worth doing, can be done without destroying children's lives.
The one institution, in my opinion, that hasn't stood up for themselves at all are Congress and the Republican Party.
It's quite extraordinary that the Republican Party, they're slotting right into behavior in Italy in the 1920s and Germany in the early 1930s and so on.
I want to know who's the person that gave the whistleblower, who's the person that gave the whistleblower the information, because that's close to a spy. You know what we used to do in the old days when we were smart, right? The spies and treason. We used to handle it a little differently than we do now.
Listen, people, I'm going to stop it right there. There's no need to move forward with this documentary. If you want to check out this documentary, it's called #Unfit, The Psychology of Donald Trump. But the purpose of why I use this clip is so that you better understand the malignant narcissist. And the malignant narcissist has personality traits of a sociopath and a psychopath. And it's no different than these men and women that claim to be the word of authority when we are being taught about the Most High. And they are so far away from the truth of the Most High that it'll blow your mind. And this is my public service announcement to you, brothers and sisters. No more benefits for the doubts. Because the benefit of the doubt that we give these people is not deserved. And it's only straying us further away from the truth. It's only hindering us. And we have to take a stance when it comes to these narcs. And one of the best things you could do to a narc is ignore them, is to block them, is to completely separate yourself from them, and also to do what I'm doing. Expose them if you're up for it. But the best thing you could do is to be far away from that influence, because I guarantee that when you do leave the narc and when you do leave that platform, don't worry about what others can think about you. Don't worry about the demonization and all that, because you're going to come out on the other side a lot better. All right. You're not going to get caught up in their narrative, because let them speak their narratives amongst those that still follow them. But you can free yourself from the emotional tyranny that they're projecting onto you. And enough is enough. No more benefits for the doubt, people. So, brothers and sisters, I'm going to play some music, of course, for this broadcast. To end the show, so that we can end the show on a positive note, giving our praise to the Most High. But I want to say this before I go, is that it's only one decision away. A lot of you are battling with the idea that if you make this decision to get away from these toxic disciples of discord, that something bad is going to happen, and that the same people that love and trust and admire you and have been by your side are going to not be by your side no more. Don't worry, because at the end of the day, you did right by the Most High, and that's all that matters. So, brothers and sisters, when you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. And don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel, because the light is and always will be within you. So light up the tunnel and find your way through the darkness. This is all the informationalists saying peace, love, light, barakatah, and all praises to the Most High. All right, brothers and sisters, we'll see you back tomorrow. And remember, I'm going to pause the episode once it's done to edit it so I can consolidate it, make it more modified, so it's a shorter episode. All right, that way you can listen to it a lot easier without having to go through all the dead air in this broadcast. So don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel, brothers and sisters. Remember, the light is and always will be within you. All right, peace and blessings to y'all, and let's rock out with some music. All right, let's go.
Nothing like this. Stage, screen, radio, TV, Rainbow
Please just tell me what's happening to me in plain English without the mumbo jumbo.
You've seen him, you know how strong he is. You can't win!
You are now tuned in to the Network of Awareness.
Yeah, we ready for war. Moving on one accord. Brethren at my side. We just gotta endure. Taking my thoughts and bringing to Christ. Throwing down imaginations. I'm just trying to stay patient. Stand fast, can't wait. Yeah, we ready for war. Moving on one accord. Brethren at my side. We just gotta endure. Dodging demons like the Matrix. I'm just trying to go home. Swore made it that truth, so I just gotta move on. Ready for war, ready for death if it go like that. So if I die, I pray that I die for the Most High God. I can't turn around, I can't look back, so it's all out war. I'm seeing the path so narrow, careful to not fall. Get up for it's too late. Sun come with a blaze with a judgment. In that day won't see where the sun went all black like sackcloth and the moon blood. This is a warning to go and repent. This is a warning to seek out the Lamb. This is the point where you go and examine. Gotta stay patient, I'm looking inside. Trust the Most High with all of my life. I love all my brothers, we suffer with Christ. When it feel like death, just know that it's life. Don't give up, Christ paid that price. Don't give up, Christ paid that price. Yeah, we ready for war. Moving on one accord. Brethren at my side. We just gotta endure. Taking my thoughts and bringing to Christ. Throwing down imaginations. I'm just trying to stay patient. Stand fast, can't wait. Yeah, we ready for war. Moving on one accord. Brethren at my side. We just gotta endure. Dodging demons like the Matrix. I'm just trying to go home. Swore made it that truth. So I just gotta move on.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you are looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. Make me a nightmare for people like you.
Yahweh Elohim is the only one I need. Dedicating all my life to the King. He's the one who's got the plan. Everything is in his hands. From the womb he knew what I'd be. Getting stronger by the day as I keep my faith up. I done felt a lot of pain, still I keep my faith up. Ain't got no time to chill, cause it's a battle to the finish. Salvation is the goal, I'm gonna get it. Just watch me.
Best foot forward, never thought I'd ever walk the walk. Truth's like walking a fine line, while holding a ball you can't drop. Loops and turns, you live and you learn. The Most High already got you reserved. Just gotta keep fighting, move with surge. Doing the work is my only concern. My plate's full cause I'm hungry to win. Tough life, yeah, but I won't just give in. Head held high, shoulders to the back. My faith is like a title I gotta defend. And I can't lose it, nah, I gotta keep winning. Gotta keep it strong, always lead with it. Yeah, this battle's long, but I ain't even winded. When you walk with Yah, no need to replenish. If you looking for a place to keep your trust, Yahweh's got your back, baby, he's the one. From start to finish, ain't gonna leave you stuck. A man can help you up, but still he's corrupt. Can't trust him, gotta give the will to Yah. From coast to coast, he knows where you are. When demons lurking, trying to get you lost, the Holy Ghost is all you need to call.
Yahweh Elohim is the only one I need. Dedicating all my life to the King. He's the one who's got the plan. Everything is in his hands. From the womb he knew what I'd be. Getting stronger by the day as I keep my faith up. I done felt a lot of pain, still I keep my faith up. Ain't got no time to chill, cause it's a battle to the finish. Salvation is the goal, I'm gonna get it. Just watch me.
My soul is so close, I'm feeling that hope. I feel my mind walking on the road. I feel my heart going to that road. Feel my soul, it got hope. I feel my soul. So is you really gonna let the flesh take you over, or you gonna fight it on? I be feeling like I'm drowning. I was drowning, but now I'm looking up and I see a lot. Yeah, I see the stars. I feel the light when I look upon. Seeing things I ain't never seen when I pray to the Most High God. I'm seeing these visions, I'm feeling these dreams. I'm feeling the word, I feel him with speed. He quickened me when I was so lonely. He listened to me when I was so broken. He fixing to me all the broken pieces stabbing at me. So when you feel like giving up, just know he gave us a second chance. So repent while you can.
Yahweh Elohim is the only one I need. Dedicating all my life to the King. He's the one who's got the plan. Everything is in his hands. From the womb he knew what I'd be. Getting stronger by the day as I keep my faith up. I done felt a lot of pain, still I keep my faith up. Ain't got no time to chill, cause it's a battle to the finish. Salvation is the goal, I'm gonna get it. Just watch me.
I need to get right. I need to get right.
The spot check. That quick once over to inspect,
You are now
correct,
tuned in
and try
to
to
the network
perfect
of
minor
awareness.
imperfections. A shift, pull, tug, or cover up was in play for those sections that needed to be hidden. And I ain't talking only about what could be seen in a mirror. Hell, that reflection, muddled and heavily soiled by the lies broadcast that I chose to own, So much so I disowned my birthright and labeled it inferior. The lies that defined what value should look like and be, value that never belonged to me because I had no clue I was what I sought. But since I bought the vision of less being more, I inadvertently waged a war during peacetime, increasing the time I wandered in darkness, looking for the cure from my captor. After signing myself up for certain death on the day of the rapture, see, I had become their captor while being unaware I wasn't free. This is why I sought solutions from the same source who imprisoned me by occupying space in my mind. Turns out being blind was my choice. I was no victim. I chose to deny the calling within my soul for answers that lay well beneath the surface. I determined what my curse is. When I cursed my creator by choosing to try on suggestions for wholeness from fragmented man and fragmented lands, wielding deceptive plans and an agenda that needed the needy, greedy, lost, impatient, and excitedly distracted. The ones who reenacted chaos because it's easy, even though the expected results kept them queasy and broken. The lost have become tokens to be played by the puppet master who sit and marvel at disaster that pay dividends, while each day we become closer to an end we don't want to own. So back then, as I stood in front of that mirror, all I could do was spot check. I allowed my eyes to scan and memorize every inch of me that didn't fit their mold. Of course, I was never told they didn't even fit the mold they sold me. There was no label disclaiming to buyers after purchase you chip away pieces of your identity and soul. That you'll step from your pedestal as royalty and diminish the very value of your melanin. See, they knew before you are black gold. Because I am his and he is me, I met the bottom in these lands. And at the bottom, I raised my hand to be helped from the pit I'd chosen, only to be met with judgment and silence as my mental reel replayed the violence of my declarations of self-hate. I guess I deserved this fate, as it was a part of my purchase, so maybe I should lay and wallow. Then, my soul, called by a gentle whisper reminding me there's more than one path to follow. Daughter, you raised one hand, but will you raise both? The voice asked of me. This was the first time I realized I wasn't free, but could be, because I am his, and he is me. Just as I chose to stand before a mirror and pick which parts of me were worthy of scrutiny, I could choose to take in the glory of his creation, all of me. The second time I stood before that mirror, I knew I was not alone, because I had chosen to take the walk with him. I chose to ask his solutions and blocked off outside offers. So this time, as my eyes scanned my naked body from head to toe, I was amazed how distorted the first time was. I was flawed perfection, and the most beautiful parts were the sections deemed unsalvageable before. It's amazing how choosing to look through the lens of God cures self-hate and delusions of grandeur. It's just that simple. When he is the first choice with no room for alternatives, hopelessness will fade. In being dedicated to the hardest work one can ever do, the inside work, your reward is the ultimate source and resource coming to your aid. The lies that we play in our minds eventually become the truth we live and dress up to disguise our pain. Insane, but true when we lose connection to our God identity. When I reconnected to her, then he and I could vibe again. It's never easy with God as my best friend, but neither is the latter. And since my soul is all that matters, I'm all in.
This concludes the Network of Awareness podcast. For more information on the Network of Awareness, please subscribe via email to our website, networkofawareness.com, and follow us on Spreaker.com or any other listening apps you use. For any questions about the NOA, email us at aura@networkofawareness.com. Thank you for listening to one of the fastest growing podcast shows on society and culture in America and abroad. When you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings.